What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today, and our next stop on the road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams is Clemson, South Carolina. That's right, we are now going to be talking about last season's ACC champs. They got back on top of the conference. It is the Clemson Tigers, again, out of the ACC. My name is Nate Bope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and supporting the channel. If you'd like to support it further, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, you might as well ring the bell. Since it's prediction season now, ringing the bell ensures by turning notifications on that you don't miss an upload for your favorite team. I am now delving into the professional world of sports media, so if you want to see everything I do as a sports media professional, as well as updates here on YouTube and to know what's going on, give me a follow on Twitter or X and Instagram. It's at tailgatenate29. You can even email me, tailgatenate29@gmail.com. Thank you so much for supporting and interacting with me or the channel, however you may be doing so, however consistently you may be doing so. And now it's time to dive on in to the Clemson Tigers. 2025 predictions roll on here. This is stop number 3. Your head coach for Clemson, yet again, is Dabo Swinney. Been there forever, and he's going to enter another year with this program. How do we do preview predictions on the channel? Well, we are first going to go through a roster overview. The offense is going to be over here. The defense is going to be over here. And then we'll go ahead and swap the camera over to that side. Sorry, that side. And then we'll take a look at the Clemson football schedule, give it a good old preview and prediction. Telling you right off the bat right now, this Clemson team, they are going to be dangerous in 2025, and you'll see why after we talk about it. So without further ado, let's start talking about the Clemson Tigers in 2025. Your offensive coordinator, again, we start with the offense, is Garrett Riley. Before we do kick it off over here with the offense, got to look right down below me, and we have to talk about one of these numbers down here. Again, I give you returning production numbers. Transfer stats are included in that up to a certain percentage, and then recruiting and portal ranks down there as well. You'll notice those returning production numbers. They are outstanding. Clemson is the #1 team in returning production across the entire country, and it's going to show when we talk about everything this team has returning, and it's a big reason why they are one of the most dangerous teams, and I feel like they're going to be one of the best teams this upcoming season. Again, your offensive coordinator is Garrett Riley. Pairing Cade Klubnik with him, look, that marriage, I think, is going to reach its peak in year 3. So let's take a look at what Cade Klubnik has done over his past 2 seasons as the quarterback at Clemson. 2023, 2,844 yards, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. There were a lot of questions about Cade Klubnik that only got answered in 2024. 3,639 yards, 3,639, 36 touchdowns. He almost doubled his touchdown production and lowered his interception total to 6, while the completion percentage was staying about the same, meaning he just got to be a better decision maker. He was better with the football in his hands, and I have a feeling that Cade Klubnik is going to exceed some of those numbers here in 2025. Cade Klubnik is living, breathing proof that you, in today's age of college football, you can stay within a program and sit and develop and turn out to be a really good football player. Cade Klubnik is that. He is a Heisman frontrunner. To me, he is the Heisman frontrunner right now. I think he's going to be a superstar for the Clemson Tiger offense this year, and pairing him with one of the best offensive coordinators in the country and Garrett Riley, well, that's going to pay its dividends as well as it has over the past couple of seasons. Clemson does have a lot of talent returning around Cade Klubnik. Phil Maffa is, though, by far and away the biggest loss. Your leading rusher last season, 1,115 yards and 8 touchdowns, is gone. Jay Haynes is going to be recovering from an ACL, so who knows how healthy he is going to be coming into this season. He was able to rush for 295 yards and 3 touchdowns, again, before suffering that injury. At the end of the day, though, did lead Clemson in yards per carry with 6.9. However, he's going to be paired with a 4-star true freshman, Gideon Davidson. He hails from the great state of Virginia, and he rushed for over 5 1,000 yards in his last 2 high school seasons. I think the kid is going to be a monster on the football field for Garrett Riley, Dabo Swinney, and this Clemson offense. Pairing him with Jay Haynes, especially when he's healthy, you could have one of the best running back combinations in the country this year. We have absolute breaking news here, right? The wide receiver room from Clemson, and Clemson as a whole added a transfer. They added a transfer. It's the first non-quarterback portal commit. It's Tristan Smith, and he's going to help add receiver depth. I know I'm skipping a bullet point here, but I want to talk about Tristan Smith for a little bit. He hails from Southeast Missouri State. Last season, 76 passes, or 76 catches, I should say, 934 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He was all Ohio Valley second team conference and helped SEMO get to the FCS playoffs. He had an outstanding career over there and is going to provide a huge boost on the outside to Cade Klubnik in the wide receiver room. Otherwise, though, when you talk about other wide receivers coming back, TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco, Antonio Williams, you do lose your top tight end, Jake Briningstool. He is off to KC to play with Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs. But again, those top 3 receivers that I just mentioned all return, and Olsen Pat Henry is going to be the guy stepping up there in your tight end room to try to fill in the shoes of what Briningstool was able to do. In your offensive line room, the trench is just going to be an absolutely massive strength for Clemson on both sides of the ball. Talking about the offensive line first, 5 of 6 offensive linemen who have played 500 snaps are coming back to this Clemson team. And your starting lineup, your starting offensive line just looks great. You have projected by ourlads.com 3 graduate students projected there on that starting offensive line. They bring experience and they bring a boatload of talent, and they are physical, handsy offensive linemen. I think Clemson's going to have one of the best offenses in the country this year. Look, Gideon Davidson, I think, is a superstar in the making at the running back position. He's going to be the next great running back that Clemson sees in their program history. Tristan Smith, I think, is a big get. And look, getting TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco, Antonio Williams, and some of these other guys back, adding Tristan Smith into that, if anything, just provides a lot of depth. But I think at the end of the day, Tristan Smith can definitely prove himself to be a top option for this Clemson offense. Is he going to be that right out of the gate? No, definitely not. Can he get there? I think he definitely can. I think he can, but at very least, he adds some depth and a very nice option to come off the sideline, or you now can play very, very well into some 4 wide receiver sets and give the defensive secondary quite the headache when you have to go up against this Clemson offense. If the Clemson offense is going to be a headache, I'm telling you right now, this Clemson defense is going to be even more of a headache. It's still going to be the physical, hard-nosed defense that we all know from these Tigers, but now they bring in Tom Allen. Allen is going to bring in discipline and intensity. If you have had questions about whether or not this is the same Clemson defense that we have seen in the past, I can guarantee you those questions are going to be answered this year. This defense is going to be physical. It's going to be intense. I don't think there's going to be many penalties against this defense. There wasn't when Tom Allen was at Penn State. And let's just run through some of the talent that Clemson has on the defensive side of the football. Peyton Page is really your only notable defensive line loss. It is an absolutely stacked defensive line room that adds a really, really good transfer in Will Helt. I believe he's coming over from Purdue. I'll fact check my math on that. And then freshman Amari Adams is entering into this program as well. The top ranked recruit out of that 26th ranked class, according to 24/7 Sports, number 7 overall, number 1 player in the state of South Carolina, and he's going to add to an already really, really, really deep defensive line room. And yes, Will Helt does hail over from Purdue. But listen to some of these other guys. They got TJ Parker, Peter Woods. Both of those guys are coming back. DeMonte Capehart has seen a lot of football. He's a graduate student. The defensive line is loaded with this Clemson Tiger program. Now, you do lose Barrett Carter out of the linebacking room, and he was one of your better defensive players. He was tied for your top tackler, 82 tackles, 3.5 sacks last season. But you do get the man that was tied with him for your lead tackler. Wade Woodaz is coming back. Sammy Brown is back as well. That was your second and third. Well, I guess tied for your top. And then your second leading tackler last year, 80 tackles for Sammy Brown, 5 sacks for him. Even to add on some more context to why this defensive line is loaded, TJ Parker, 11 sacks last season. Yeah, that is coming back. Again, Woods, he had 3 sacks last season. So this is the defensive front that's going to be very aggressive. It's going to be flying everywhere. But Woodaz and Brown, two of your top tacklers returning from last year, hey, that's not going to be too shabby either. It's going to make for what's going to end up, I believe, being a really, really good linebacker room within this Tiger program. Now, you do have, again, a notable loss out of your secondary. RJ Mickens is going to end up leaving that defensive back room. And Mickens last season was your fourth leading tackler, 76 tackles, 7 passes defended, and 2 picks. Really a really good season for RJ Mickens last year, but this is going to be a very vocal, well-led, highly talented secondary. Let me tell you some of the names that are in the secondary. Khalil Barnes is the first one that has to come to mind. 5th leading tackler last year and led the team with 4 interceptions last season. Here's another one for you. Avion Terrell. He led the team with 12 passes defended last season. That's 1 safety and 1 cornerback for you in that order. And there's just a ton more really, really talented guys here that are going to be coming back here to this room. Jaden Lucas, Kylon Griffin, even some of these younger guys like Ashton Hampton and Ricardo Jones. It's going to be a very vocal, well-led secondary that I think is going to ball hawk all over the field. I wouldn't be surprised if Clemson is one of the leaders in interceptions this year because I truly believe that that type of talent is here with Clemson, on top of the fact that they're going to hit you really, really hard. Again, special teams, we do have to talk about it. It's part of the game, and kickers are people too. Nolan Hauser is going to return to kick, and Jack Smith will now take over the punting duties. He will be your new punter, but Nolan Hauser does come back as that place kicker for you to be the primary option in 2025. I mean, just look up and down. It's really, really hard to find a hole with this Clemson team because you pretty much got everyone coming back. Yeah, there's, a pretty sizable loss in a lot of different categories. You lose your leading rusher, you lose tied for your leading tackler. Mickens was one of your best secondary players. Peyton Page, a notable guy on the defensive front. But bringing Tom Allen in, I think is going to bring intensity and discipline and answer all the questions that anybody may have about, is this still the same Clemson defense? Yeah, Clemson's defense in terms of physicality and aggressiveness is going to return this season. And again, I think the offense sees its peak with the Cade Klubnik Garrett Riley marriage here in year 3. We take a look now at your Clemson 2025 football schedule, and there are a lot of interesting games that we got to break in and talk about. But first, some numbers right below me that I want to discuss. These are courtesy of FanDuel, and no, I am not telling you to go out and bet your money on this. I'm simply giving a sort of background and framework to how odds makers think Clemson is going to do in 2025. In terms of that plus 130 odds to win the conference, that is the best in the ACC. They are expected to repeat as the conference champs. In terms of the national title odds, plus 1400 might seem like pretty long odds. In reality, that is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th best odds to win the national championship. Clemson is absolutely that caliber of a team, and they have that caliber of a schedule, because look at that first week match of the battle of the two teams that call Death Valley home, except it's going to be in Clemson's Death Valley to kick it off. They are going to get to face the LSU Tigers, and I absolutely love this LSU team. I really, really love this Clemson team, but I also really like what LSU has got going on here in 2025. Garrett Nussmeier, again, also proof you can sit in a program, much like Cade Klubnik, sit and develop and be a really good player. I think that running back Caden Durham is set for an absolute breakout season here in 2025 after what he did as a true freshman in 2024. They got some really good wide receiver transfers coming in there. You're going to get Harold Perkins back from injury. He's one of the best defensive players in the country at linebacker. Lots of good transfers coming in. Lots of good pieces coming back. I think this LSU team is loaded, and I think I said this in a different video in my the Power 30 video. Don't be surprised if LSU is in the national semifinal or even the national championship at the end of the year. But I think Clemson is the better Tiger in this matchup. I like Cade Klubnik a little bit more than I like Garrett Nussmeier, and I like this Clemson defense a lot more than what I like with LSU. It made a big jump here in 2024 or 2023 to 2024. I think it's in for another pretty sizable jump here, but I just think Clemson's defense is going to be too much for LSU, especially with that home crowd backing the Clemson Tigers. They will be able to prove that that is the real Death Valley. Don't get offended, LSU, just poking fun. Clemson will win that game against LSU in week 1. They will start the season off 1-0 before they do win that game against Troy. That shouldn't be a problem for the Tigers either. Georgia Tech. Okay. This Georgia Tech team is one of the most dangerous teams in college football this season, and I mean that with full sincerity. Haynes King is coming back. Jamal Haynes is coming back. You get Malik Rutherford and Isaiah Cannon back, as well as some really good wide receiver transfers to boot. The defensive front is going to be boosted up through the transfer portal, and you get a ton of leaders, especially the most linebacker of all linebackers, and Kyle Efford. He is coming back to that defense. I think Georgia Tech is going to give Clemson a very nice fight. Now, we all know the season that Florida State had last year, but Georgia Tech was able to upset Florida State, and they were this close to beating their rival in the Georgia Bulldogs there in that absolute classic 8 overtime game last season. I think this one's going to be a really scary game for Clemson, but I do think that their defense at the end of the day is going to be able to shut down what Georgia Tech brings. While I like a lot of those weapons they have on the outside, I think Clemson has got the secondary needed to be able to lock it down, and that defensive front, I think, is going to be able to slow down Jamal Haynes and the dual threat quarterback Haynes King, especially able to provide some pressure on that offensive line. So Clemson beats Georgia Tech, and then they move on at home to Syracuse, another very interesting team this season. I do really like what Fran Brown did last year, and I think Syracuse only will build on that here in 2025. However, you're breaking in a new quarterback. Ricky Collins is transferring in, and you're replacing just a ton of weapons on both sides of the ball. Clemson's too talented. Give me the Tigers to beat the Orange. You got a road date with North Carolina after your bye week. Well, who is that head coach there now? Oh, yeah, only about the best NFL coach to ever freaking live. Bill Belichick is here with North Carolina. How many wins does it lead to? You'll have to wait for my video to find out. But you're going to be breaking in Gio Lopez, I believe formerly of South Alabama. I will fact check that there as well. Yes, South Alabama is where he came from. Had a really good career there. Kobe Paysor is coming back to that wide receiver room. So, Gio Lopez is going to have a pretty solid weapon to throw to. But the defense is breaking in transfers all over the place. There's a whole ton of new in Chapel Hill. And I just don't think they're going to get past the rugged physicality that this Clemson team has. So I think Clemson will be able to win that one. And I think they should pretty easily go on the road and beat Boston College. They're also trying to replace a couple pieces and are just nowhere near as talented as Clemson. So I think they're going to be able to win that one. Now here's the interesting one. Rematch of the ACC Championship game against the Ponies, the SMU Mustangs, and SMU still going to be a very, very talented team this year. Kevin Jennings, that quarterback, you're going to see him coming back, as well as some of those big wide receiver pieces that were so valuable last year. Romello Brinson, Jordan Hudson, and even some really talented freshmen are going to be entering that wide receiver room. But you're breaking a couple new offensive linemen, and I think Clemson's going to be able to take advantage of a not necessarily weak, but not as strong SMU offensive line. It could very well get stronger this year, but especially that sophomore transfer Joshua Bates coming over from Oklahoma to play center. I think he's going to fit in well. I just think Clemson's going to prove to be way too physical for this SMU front, and I think this Clemson offense will be able to take advantage of a defense that's also breaking in some new, albeit really, really experienced transfers on the defensive front, returning a lot of great pieces in that defensive back seven. You just got to go with the more talented team here, right? Cade Klubnik, I trust a lot more than Kevin Jennings. Made some bad decisions in the playoff game last year, especially that Clemson's got this one at home in Death Valley. I think SMU is going to play really, really hard here. They want to come back and win this one and prove that they can beat Clemson. I just don't think it's going to happen. Clemson is 7-0 going on into their second bye week. And then you get the game against Duke, another game that, hey, is worth talking about. Yet a game that I still think, Clemson is going to win. But Duke has got some interesting pieces. Darian Mensah does transfer in. Jaquez Moore comes back as that running back. You get Andrew Anthony transferring in to play wide receiver for you, as well as another transfer with some good pieces coming back. Offensive line is going to be really good at Duke. Defense should be pretty good at Duke. Off a 9-win campaign last year, man, Duke's going to be another really, really solid team. There with Manny Diaz as the head coach. again, unfortunately, just like a lot of these games, I think Clemson is much too talented. They will also be beating the Florida State Seminoles. I don't think Florida State's going to have another disastrous 2-10 season. Do I think they're going to rebound all the way up to where they were in 2023? No, absolutely not. There are transfers in all over the place. Former Boston College quarterback Tommy Castellanos is over there now, and just a ton of this offense is new, although it's really good. Deuce Robinson, Squirrel White transferring in. You get Roy Dale Williams back at running back. Hello. Defensive secondary should be solid. Again, a whole lot of new. Florida State does improve, but Clemson, again, is just that kind of team this year. I like the Tigers in that one. I also like them on the road against Louisville, but don't you dare for a second count out what Jeff Brom is going to do with this program this year. The standards, I think, a little disappointing for Louisville last year. You're bringing in Miller Moss to play quarterback. Isaac Brown comes back. Takari Collins and Bobby Golden come back with Chris Bell and Colin Lacey to be a really, really good wide receiver troop. But you're going to be breaking in an entirely new secondary, and I think Clemson's got some real weapons on the outside. Close one again on the road. They're going to have to try to survive, much like that Georgia Tech game, as Louisville gives them a run, but I do think Clemson ultimately wins. They are able to beat Furman, and then you get the rivalry matchup with South Carolina. I like this South Carolina team a lot. And there are a lot of pitfalls on this Clemson schedule. I think they're going to lose one somewhere. And unfortunately, to the fans in Clemson, I think it's going to be to your in-state counterparts in South Carolina. Lenore Sellers is going to be one of the most dynamic playmakers in the country this year. And then you take a look at their wide receiver core. Nick Harbor is an absolute dog. He's poised for an absolute breakout season. Defensive front's going to be really talented, and that secondary as well, I think, is just going to be simply outstanding. Clemson finishes off the season with the loss to South Carolina, but they're going to be going to the ACC Championship game, 11-1 record, undefeated in conference. Maybe the closest team to compete with them in conference is Miami. SMU is right there. I think Louisville and Georgia Tech can give them a run for their money, but again, Clemson with that statement win against LSU, they are the real deal this year, and they are going to prove it. Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley, that marriage is going to be outstanding. And that physical, aggressive, disciplined defense that we are used to seeing out of Clemson is going to come back when Tom Allen takes over. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and we'll see ya in the next prediction. Goodbye.